誰の願いも叶うというものではありません。無償の愛を持つものでなければ。
Somebody find Neo Young, stat! Cold opener for this one seemed to fall right after the last episode's peace talks with the Wizard Kingdom, and Hana now celebrating by playing with the butterflies, only to stumble upon the gateway to hell.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Also, I just love how they're still playing the usual happy cold opener music as something as horrific as this appears. We would see the repercussions for this after the Ojamajo got back to the Mahodo. With the health exams kind of rightfully being postponed after all that chaos, they decided to call it a night, especially with Hana looking particularly sleepy. However, as they slept, their portal to the witch's world seemed to spring a little bit of a leak.
What was that black goo?
The next morning, after the title card kind of gave things away like it did with Jonochi and Ultra Magnus, Hana and also her tree weren't in the healthiest of states. And I gotta say, the show did a really good job making things feel progressively more ominous as it went on. Just starting off with little stuff like a cold chill in the air, to Hana developing slight cold symptoms before she started to literally boil water with just her fever. Understandably, Majorika and Lala decide to call in the Ojamajo on their day off. Are we sure she's snoring? Because that sounds more like... Oh wait, apparently we can't show that anymore. My bad. Granted, the levity was certainly appreciated, as the infant was having some serious health issues. The Ojamajo did all they could to try and help, including calling back to that mucus collecting technique from near the beginning of the series, which, as I said back then, I think they really need to start switching to a special syringe. Regardless, Hana did eventually stop crying, due to a lack of hydration. Yeah, did I mention things were starting to feel really dramatic? Though thankfully, not in a mellow sort of way, as again, this was built up nicely, with the mysterious entity seemingly starting things up near the beginning of the episode, and events having just gradually escalated since then. So we were able to effectively connect with the Ojamajo's desperation. Anyway, left with no other options, they figured they should try asking Majo Heart for help. Thus, they waited for the moon to enter into its full emoji phase, and of course they discovered the damage the entity had done to their portal, with it only barely being able to get them through before it was sealed up, along with seemingly all the other portals between the worlds. Unable to turn back, the Ojamajo desperately tried to find any cure they could, even when Majo Heart was drawing a blank. Yeah, but these are the final episodes, and we have a bit of a tradition to follow. Fortunately, the Witch Queen knew of a solution to their problem, which just so happened to be a cure-all, but at least it wasn't going to be easy to get.
I
mean, fair enough, she is one of the best Precure villains in a long while. And again, good build up here to really hammer home what the Ojamajo were about to face to get this little MacGuffin. Then again, all they really needed to do was show this forest, and we could get a good sense of its foreboding nature. But I guess they also decided to throw in the little detail that the one witch that managed to go into and back from it was left slightly traumatized afterwards.
For kids!
Yeah, I can't imagine that company having an easy time adapting this episode. As it turned out, this is all the creation of a previous witch queen, specifically from 2 generations before the current one. She had been a rather rebellious empress who had frequented the human world and broke her own laws, which, okay, that's kind of typical politician behavior. And of course, she would develop a scandalous love life with a forbidden partner. Granted, it was consensual and genuine, but doing so would mean she'd have to abdicate her throne, which she just did without a second thought. Well, y'all voted for her. Regardless, it was a happy bond that even led to them having a child together. Good, now make one for me every day or else I'll destroy the world. Actually, we're not even that far off, as the husband accidentally passed away while picking raspberries for a cake for her from the mountains. Yeah, putting aside how that's a pretty dumb way to go, it also did highlight the mortality of humans that witches, like the former queen, would be unable to experience, as not only could they fly, but they also have much longer life expectancies. Thus, while she still did have her child, who just so happened to look like a male version of Hana, she experienced the one thing that many parents never ever want to go through, but she had to, as there was absolutely nothing she could do about it, outlive her child by many, many years. In case you're wondering, no, you're not watching the first episode of Freyren, but rather a children's magical girl anime that aired on Sunday mornings. God, I miss the old days. But yeah, kind of understandably, she decided to just go full scorched earth and essentially finalize the division of the witch and human worlds, which, as we've learned, was already tenuous due to the latter's misusage of magic. In her case, she also misused her magic by not only destroying many portals between the worlds, but also being the one who originally created the frog curse. Yeah, rather than a curse, that sounds more like a troll move. Like, isn't usually something more like, oh, I don't know, death rather than being turned into a French delicacy? Regardless, if you couldn't tell, this was some great world building that built off and added to previously established lore that frankly, I didn't really think about, like where the frog curse originally came from. Again, it's a rather random curse to prevent contact between the worlds, but whatever. Moreover, it did retroactively make Madrika a bit more of an important character for being unknowingly a new link between these worlds. In any case though, the Ojamajo of course resolved to get the flower in spite of the former queen apparently being one of the strongest witches ever. Thus, the current queen reinstated them as full witches by returning their jewels to at least give them a bit of an edge. With that, they also equipped their pottering forms with more serious transformations, which, yeah, of everything in this episode, this felt a bit superfluous. I mean, I think we already had a good idea of what dangers they were facing, so giving them an animation where all of their faces were super serial feels like a bit of a waste of animation, but whatever. With that, the episode ended with the Ojamajo making their way to their final battlefield, at least for this season. This was a pretty amazing episode that kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, I'm just impressed by how much world building they managed to incorporate within just 23 minutes, doubly so when they're coming off another arc that wasn't totally connected with it. You could argue that it was rushed in areas, which it certainly was technically speaking, but I didn't really mind because the story was just that gripping. Now, to be fair, some of this lore and plot points have already been long since established, or at least hinted at. Like how witches' lifespans are much longer than the average human, and even the frog curse. That and other little details did make this feel like a proper build to a conclusion for the series so far. And this is in spite of the fact that the previous Witch Queen is technically a brand new plot point out of nowhere, after we just rather abruptly concluded the Wizard's World arc, but for the most part, I think they made it work. Again, help that some of these settings have already been established, but they also really hammered home the threat she posed. From the accounts of her previous victims, to just what she had done to Hana, they managed to set up a good sense of urgency, while even throwing in a very sympathetic backstory that, while rather dark, did also make total sense in this anime's world. Most importantly, they did take the time to have the characters express their concerns both with their words and body language. It's solid storytelling, even though this is a bit of a last-minute conflict after the Wizard World plot was kind of abandoned. And overall, this is just a great penultimate episode with tons of build-up and a lot of drama and suspense. While her life was rough, I guess it was only appropriate that for this season all about mothering, the final boss would be the ultimate Karen. Thank you for watching, and as always, be sure to check out some of our other videos on this channel. After the Hirogaru Sky overview, we're just gonna slow things down a little, both to recharge, and also because we want to tackle a few smaller projects in between. Look forward to them, and until then though, farewell for now, my friends, and if you excuse me, Freyren is gonna hook me up with a certain potion. I'm just gonna use it to dispose of some old clothes, that's all.